artist Keith Haring. This is the artist that we will be focusing on this week as we work through our lesson. So let's look at this slide and let's learn a little more about Keith Haring. Keith Haring was born on May 4th, 1958 in Reading, Pennsylvania. He developed a love for drawing at a very early age, learning basic cartooning skills from his father and from popular culture such as Dr. Seuss and Walt Disney. So, his dad and all of these things around him are what instilled his love for art and his drawing, right? In 1980, Haring found a way to communicate with a wider audience he desired when he noticed the unused advertising panels covered with black paper in a subway station. He began to create drawings with white chalk upon these blank paper panels throughout the subway system. Between 1980 and 1985, Haring produced hundreds of these public drawings, sometimes creating as many as 40 subway drawings in one day. His drawings became familiar to New York commuters who would often stop to watch the artist when they saw him drawing. The subway became a laboratory for working out his ideas and experimenting with his simple lines. In April 1986, Haring opened the Pop Shop, a retail store in Soho, selling t-shirts, toys, posters, buttons, and magnets bearing his images. Throughout his career, Haring devoted much of his time to public works, which often carried social messages. He produced more than 50 public works between 1982 and 1989 in dozens of cities around the world. So many were created for charities, hospitals, children's daycare centers, and orphanages. Since his death in 1990, Haring has been the subject of several international retrospectives. The work of Keith Haring can be seen today in the exhibitions and collections of major museums around the world. So let's look at this slide here. This is going to be super important when we get to the demonstration portion of the assignment for this week. So this is what we're going to look at. How to draw a Keith Haring figure. So number one, we're going to draw a stick figure, just like you see on this side. Do you see this little simple stick figure here? We're going to draw a stick figure. We're going to outline the stick figure, just like this. You see how I outlined the stick figure here? We're not going to include a neck. Okay, notice there's no neck. We're going to make sure his belly is shaped like a rectangle or a square, a square or a very wide rectangle. And we're going to include short lines all around the figure to make it look like he's moving. Okay, so it makes it look like he's dancing or he's walking, right? That's what we're going to add. So these are the little short lines. Notice how they're curved, okay? So let's go ahead. We read our little instructions here. You can always come back to this. It's going to be available for you on Google Classroom. You can come back to this, or you can watch me go through everything step by step in the video as fast or as slow as you need me to, okay? So you can pause and you can let it play all the way through. It's up to you. You can watch the video more than once. That's the awesomeness about this, all right? So let's go ahead. We're going to leave this little portion here and let's go on to our next segment, which is the demo. All right, boys and girls, so now it is our turn. Let's do a little bit of a study of Keith Haring's artwork. So at the end of the presentation, you saw that there was a little step-by-step. It mentioned what you need to do, some instructions you need to follow, and some tips, okay? So we're going to be going ahead, and first things first, we're going to have a piece of paper. We're going to gather what we need. Piece of paper, a marker, a pencil, and something to color with. It may be whatever you have at home or what you choose to use, okay? So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to put my marker and my things to color with aside because I don't need this just yet. I need to start off with a pencil. If I don't start off with a pencil, this step is gonna be a little tricky. So let's start off with a pencil, okay? So I'm going to draw a nice big circle here. We're making a stick figure, okay? That's pretty big, right? It's not too small and it's not humongous, but it's pretty big, right? It's in between. So next, we're going to draw a horizontal line. A horizontal line, remember, goes across. So we're going to go across just like this underneath our circle. Okay. We're not making a stick figure with a neck because Keith Haring's people in his artwork don't have necks. Okay. Next, we're going to make a vertical line. That means going up and down straight, just like that. Another smaller horizontal line. Okay. A slight diagonal line. Another one. Okay, and we're going to make a diagonal line coming in, just like this. And one more, a tiny horizontal line going out, and one more going out. If you can take a guess as to what those are his feet. Okay, and our last step, we're going to draw a, just like we did with the feet and the legs, a slight diagonal line coming in and going out. Awesome. Okay, so we have our stick figure. This is what it should look like. Next, I'm going to draw around it. Okay, when you're doing all of this, drawing your stick figure, you want to be drawing and adding light pressure. You don't want to be pressing too hard because it's going to be a lot harder going to the step of erasing. So we have a plain little stick figure. We want to trace around it so it can be a little thicker. So watch what I do. I'm going to go through this a bit slowly here. Okay. I'm going around it. Watch what I do. Going around it. I'm using my little stick figure as a guide. And there we go. I connected it. Look at what we have here. Now we have a thicker shape, right? It's starting to look a little more like what Keith Haring draws. So now my job is to carefully erase the lines that I made to help us get this bigger shape, okay? If you don't want to see any little lines left over, remember to press very lightly and gently on your pencil when you're drawing your stick figure, okay? Be very careful. Okay. There we go. I was being very careful and very gentle in my paper. Now what I want to do is I'm going to make a horizontal line going like this. You're going to see it here. It's going to disappear. And then it's going to continue on this side. So let's go ahead and make that horizontal line. Ready? Making a line. Pause. Making a pretend line. Continuing that on. right here, I'm going to start it and continue it again. Okay, there we go. Now my next step is I'm going to add some emphasis and make it look like it's moving by adding little marks like this. So it can look like he's dancing. And they're just little curved lines. Okay. And lastly, I'm gonna add some lines here on the ground because Keith Haring liked to distinguish the background from the floor in some of his paintings. And the way he did that was by adding some lines, dots, or other little patterns on the ground, and then the background was solid. Okay, and there's our work. So our next step is we're going to take our black marker, outline everything, and then we're going to color. Okay, so I'm going to go through the outlining here in regular time, and then when we get to the coloring, that's going to go a little faster. Okay. Remember when you're outlining something to take your time, be careful, and to follow the lines that you've made. If you feel that you need to change something while you're doing this, or that you kind of missed the line a little bit, make sure you give it a little bit of time to dry, like a minute, and then you can go in and erase any little lines that you see left over of the pencil. And it should be just like this. See how I go over the lines I've made? Okay, before we continue coloring, I'm going to show you here an example of Keith Haring's work. Look at the background, the floor, and the person that is in the drawing. You'll notice that the background is one solid color, right? The wall behind him, the floor is one color, and the person is another color. So choose 3 colors that you would like to use for your artwork, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and choose my 3, and I'm going to use colors that are kind of like opposite each other. They don't look the same, they're very different, and that way when I color, they're going to really stand out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to begin coloring. Okay, and this next part I'll go a little faster. Kiddos, this is our artwork all done, our Keith Haring inspired artwork. I hope you enjoyed learning about Keith Haring and learning how to draw just like him. We have a couple things here we want to go ahead and mention before we go, and that is, remember, you choose 3 colors. They have to be kind of opposite of each other. They can't be too similar. Okay, our red and our yellow are a little similar, but not too much, right? If I used red and orange, that would have been a little different, right? But I chose yellow because it was the least similar, right, to the red. And then I have my green, right? And that's totally different than these other 2 colors, see? And you see everything stands out very much from each other. Okay, there's emphasis on certain areas. Okay, that means that your eye is drawn to certain areas because of the color that it is versus everything else, right? And that's how it should look. Okay, and as for when you're turning in your work, make sure you turn it into Google Classroom. If you have any troubles doing that, your parents can email it to me or send it to me through Class Dojo. If you'd also like to look here, My artwork is nice and flat on my table, and my camera is very up high. Notice how clearly I can see my work. This is where you want to go ahead and make sure that you have your camera at, and about this angle, okay? If I see a lot of colors and crayons all over on top of your artwork, it makes it really hard for me to see, and sometimes even share your artwork with others to say, wow, look at the beautiful work they've made, but then it's kind of hard to see because there's stuff all over it. Make sure your area is nice and clean, that there's nothing in the way, right? Nothing at all, and that I can see your work very clearly, okay? Just like this. Again, I hope you enjoyed your lesson this week. If you have any questions, again, I'm available on Google Classroom, and I can help you out as much as I can. Or even when we have our meetings, I can help you out with your artwork and how to create it. Bye, everyone.